So what I think is everyone should make for themselves a little card like this with the stuff that you know your audience is going to care most about so that, because sometimes it's very nerve-wracking when you're in a situation where you have to introduce yourself. It's like you can't barely remember your name if you're meeting somebody. Well, I saw a picture of you meeting Obama. You might have had trouble remembering your name when you met Obama.
I did.
So you would have needed this card to remember, oh, yes, I'm the president of the school.
Well, Gigi, I'll show you a real quick funny story about that. So I got to go to the Oval Office. So as I'm shaking his hand, first I do a double shake. Like I shake his hand and I put my other hand on top of that, which I never do. And then second, it was time to let go. And I kind of didn't want to let go of his hand in the moment. So it was a little bit weird and awkward. But you're right. If I had a little card with me, I could have just given him that and kept my mouth closed.
So welcome everybody to Gigi Presents. I'm Gigi Rosenberg, and I'm a public speaking coach, and I am so excited to be here with today's guest, Dr. Robert Kelly, the president of the University of Portland. Now, I met he goes by Rob, so let's just call him Rob. I met Rob about a month ago at an event that was sponsored by Becker Capital Management, and he was on a panel at the Perspectives event. And when I saw him on stage, I just thought, oh my gosh, he brings so much warmth and so much joy to his presentations that I know my listeners who want to be better public speakers would have so much to learn from him. But then the clincher was he handed me this business card that they use at University of Portland. And you're going to learn today why I fell in love with his card and thought, okay, that's it. He's got to be on the show. So before we get started, I do want to give him his more formal introduction. So Dr. Robert Kelly is the 21st president of University of Portland. He spent his entire career in higher ed, so as a leader, administrator, and a faculty member. And he joined UP in 2022, and he's the first layperson to lead the university. Now, his tenure on what they call the Bluff here in Portland featured the launch of many initiatives, including a visionary strategic plan and the strongest fundraising years in the university history. President Kelly is seemingly everywhere on campus. He attends student performances, he cheers on the pilots, the student athletes, and he documents it all on his Instagram account. So welcome to the show, Rob, President Kelly. I am so happy to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me, Gigi.
So let's talk about this awesome business card. So I don't know if you want to describe it or you want me to describe it, but tell me. So this thing for the people who are just listening, this thing I'm talking about, which I'm holding up to the camera, is the size of a business card, but it opens and has awesome info in it. So I'm going to let you now take it away and tell me what inspired the creation of this business card.
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me here. And what inspired the card is you're often in situations where you don't have a lot of time to talk about what you do, the thing that you're here to do, what you get a paycheck for every day. Certainly, we want to spend more time talking about who we are as individuals, who we are as people, that sort of thing. But you don't have a lot of time. So the idea behind it was you can be in an elevator with somebody and you could say, hey, listen, we didn't get to finish our conversation. I want to hand this to you and follow up with me. And so it has information that sometimes people don't really know, that wouldn't be readily available or immediately apparent. And so we tried to fill it with lots of tidbits about the institution, about things that we think make a difference for people beyond what you might hear out there in the world, because right now it's a challenging time. Higher education is facing certainly a challenging time, but not insurmountable and not really anything that we've not really seen before. So we will get past this time, but it's important that we share accurate information with people when we can.
So that's exactly what's in this card. So this card opens and inside are UP highlights. But even if I were to only read the main headline here, it says small school, big outcomes. So it's like a little cheat sheet for your elevator speech. So you could just look in and say, oh, hi, yes, I work at the University of Portland. We're a big school. No, we're a small school with big outcomes.
Yeah.
And that's all you would need. And then, you mentioned that some of the things are things people care about, like 99% of students receive scholarships or financial aid. That's highlighted inside this card. Or did you know we have the highest 4-year graduation rate in Oregon? Again, highlighted in this.
In public and private. Because sometimes people think, oh, you're just talking about the private school. No. Public and private. It's been that way for almost over 30 years.
Yeah, yeah. So what I think is everyone should make for themselves a little card like this with the stuff that your audience is going to care most about, so that, because sometimes it's very nerve-wracking when you're in a situation where you have to introduce yourself. It's like you can't barely remember your name if you're meeting somebody. Well, I saw a picture of you meeting Obama. You might have had trouble remembering your name when you met Obama.
I did.
So you would have needed this card to remember, oh, yes, I'm the president of the school.
Well, Gigi, I'll show you a real quick funny story about that. So I got to go to the Oval Office, and we took the 1963 basketball champions at that time. We got to go to the office. So as I'm shaking his hand, first I do a double shake. Like I shake his hand, and I put my other hand on top of that, which I never do. And then second, it was time to let go. And I kind of didn't want to let go of his hand in the moment. So it was a little bit weird and awkward. But you're right. If I had a little card with me, I could have just given him that and kept my mouth closed.
Your cheat sheet would have said, no double handshake and let go when it's time.
Exactly.
Oh, my gosh. So I just love this so much. And then if there's time, there's more things I could use to continue our conversation if I wanted to. But the other amazing thing about this, it's also the leave behind, something somebody can take with them, and then they can look at the highlights of the school right there.
Right. And contact us later, because the idea is it starts a conversation. It doesn't end one. It's an opportunity for people to really grow and connect and stay connected.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm sorry that I only took one of these with me, because I know you had a couple on you.
Oh, I have. I keep them with me.
So I just think this is so awesome. And I recommend people make a little, and if they want more room, a folded business card with all the details. That's both a cheat sheet for themselves and also something people can take with them.
Yeah.
Now, this is a great opportunity for me to share my business cards with you. Because what I did was I hired a New York illustrator to make some illustrations, and I wanted the business cards to have some wisdom on them about public speaking, so people could get a feeling for what matters to me, and then we could just see if we're aligned on that. So the first one I have here it's a woman. The image is a woman on a bicycle with a backpack on, and her backpack is full of people. And the message that I've got on this one is take the audience on a journey. So this idea that you want to take people from one place to another. And then this other one I have is it's a little drawing of two people who look like very hip Portlanders, and they're sitting at a cafe table drinking. If you really look closely, you can tell they're drinking hot cocoa. Anyway, the message on this one is every presentation is a conversation. So this idea that and that's one skill you just demonstrate in such a beautiful way. Whenever I watch a bunch of your Instagram videos, you just sound like we're sitting having hot cocoa at a table no matter what. So that idea of just making it a conversation. This next one is a woman smelling a flower, and the message here is be the calm in the storm. So this idea that if you're calm, it's like being a good parent. If you're calm, the audience will be calm as well. And then the last one, which people, this is my most popular one. The message is channel your inner diva. And there's a picture of a woman with another woman inside her. And this is an idea of like, sometimes to be good at public speaking, you just need what you need. You need to have your full glass of water with you. You need to wear the right shirt. You need to have tissues handy. You need to have your script handy. It's whatever you need to do your best work. That's what divas do. You know what I mean? They make sure they have what they need. So anyway, what I love about these though is that when I have people choose which ones they want, so that way they're immediately engaged in, which message is mine? And it doesn't make it awkward when it's not like, here's my business card. It feels less salesy and more like I'm giving them a little piece of wisdom, even if we never, ever meet again.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Anyway, as you can tell, I'm really into business cards. So the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is you are very warm and very joyful as a person, but that really shows up when you're on the stage. And I'm just wondering if those are qualities that you've just always been that way and it was easy to translate that to the stage. But if you were coaching somebody who wanted to bring those qualities more out in themselves, what do you do to bring those qualities out in yourself? And what would you coach somebody else to do if they wanted to be that way in front of an audience?
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that. And thank you for that. I often think that a lot of times when we have to be on stage or we have to say something publicly or share something, we can play those negative tapes in our head about, oh, I don't look right, or I'm not sitting right, or this isn't going to come out the right way. And I often think that all of these are just opportunities for us to continue to engage in conversation. It's not, it doesn't end there. Ideally, a conversation is going to be a little bit of back and forth, and it will add some level of depth. It will add some level of depth so that eventually you can ask another question and you can follow up. And it can be this really nice interplay of conversation and truly a dialogue as opposed to a monologue when you're just standing up there saying stuff and then it lands with a thud. I'm also a person that believes you got to just be yourself and not be anyone else. That you have to, it comes across as it's more genuine, it's more authentic when you can just say what you have to say, and not worry about kind of how it might be perceived. You certainly want to be thoughtful and inviting in your language. And I often use the example of holding people accountable. When you think of that imagery, though, of holding someone accountable, you're holding them. It's like an embrace. It's like a hug. And so then I don't really mind so much what might come as a result of what I might say, but really that it's the start of a conversation and a back and forth.
So when you say holding somebody accountable, what do you mean by that? Are you talking about your audience?
Well, yeah, because I want the audience to hear what I have to say, but also hear the spirit of what I'm saying. And so there's a responsibility there. When you hold me accountable, there's a responsibility there that's a mutual. And so you're going to say, gosh, I heard you say this. Tell me more about that. Or this is how what you just said. Here's what kind of it conjures up for me. And in that way, we are committed to the other person's learning, the other person's experience. And so we're going to hold each other. And I really do think of that. It's holding each other as opposed to I say something and I can walk away. That I think is one of the most challenging parts of conversation, when you can just say something and you walk away and you don't care so much about how it lands. It's about that mutuality. So that's kind of how I think of it sometimes.
So are you saying you don't care about how it lands, or you do care about how it lands?
Well, no, I care about how it lands in terms of wanting the conversation to continue. If it's just a transactional thing of I say this and then I walk away, for me, that's not as life-giving. I know there are times when that has to happen. Certainly, I just need to convey the information and just be done with it.
Right.
But if it's really like a panel conversation or a town hall or forum, that's really where you want to bring up more conversation. And you do care about how the other people are hearing what you have to say.
Right. So part of that skill is when you're talking to really have your listening ears open in the same moment and you're watching them, like the underlying message of that seems to really be, you getting this? You got it? Like you're holding them in your focus and with your attention, which is very, very powerful.
And you're there, you're in it.
You're there. Yeah. Yeah. Because that presence is something that, first of all, most people, I think we're all craving being paid attention to in a good way, like having someone's full presence in front of us. And so you're getting there and saying, okay, I'm here. You're going to be here with me?
Yeah.
You're going to be here with me. That's how I can understand that being accountable. Like I've made the commitment to be here with you. You with me? All right. You with me now? You know, that's
and you keep checking in along the way.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So when you hear, I'm going to go back to the beginning of your answer when you talked about the negative thinking. I'm assuming, like most human beings, you can have some negative thinking, even though you seem like a very positive person. But when you feel any negative thoughts come up, what do you do to help yourself get back on a positive track or change change what you're thinking? What do you practically do?
I mean, one thing is breathing. Just taking a moment to say, let me just take a breath here. I also think that in any kind of conversation, in a relationship, and a speaking engagement, at the end of the day, we want to learn more. We want more to be illuminated for us. We want to understand more of the situation. I think people don't really want a situation where I didn't learn anything out of that interaction. I walked away as empty. My cup is as empty as it was when I started it. No one really wants that. So people are inclined, I think, to want to engage, to want to know more, to want to see the best in the outcome of any interaction. Once you kind of get that, you understand that, then I think it's a lot more freeing to not second guess yourself, to not think of the negative thoughts that might be in your head. Oh, this isn't going to come across as clear, but to really just be truly in the moment, and to be joyfully in the moment. So I use as an example here at the University of Portland, I try to be joyfully engaged in the life of the institution, no matter what I'm doing. If I'm walking around campus, I try to be joyfully engaged in the people that I'm going to interact with. If I see them, I say hi, I wait for a response to know how their day is going. If I'm going to a meeting, even if it's a contentious meeting, even if it could be an awards ceremony, no matter what it is, to be joyfully engaged, because that's what other people deserve. Other people deserve the best of us. And so how do we find a way to give them the best of us?
Yeah, that's amazing. And it really does have a lot to do with presence and breathing and just being there. That's huge. It's so funny, day to day, when you might pass somebody on the sidewalk and you both exchange a little smile, and comparing that to somebody speeding next to you and yelling something out the window. It's like the smile makes me then smile at the next person, which makes that person smile at the next person. And sort of like the love just grows.
Yeah.
And with those other examples, the opposite can happen too. Then you speed by me and yell, I get home and I'm grouchy with my kids, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So yeah.
It's about matching the energy you're given sometimes.
Yeah.
And even if it's not a smile sometimes, as long as the resting face is not negative. So again, I often think it's about matching the energy that you're putting out in the world and that you're receiving, and I think that elevates the level of discourse.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things you said in your other answer was this idea of be yourself. Now, that's not easy for most people. So how do you do it? How do you be yourself? Or were there times when you weren't yourself and you thought, oh, that didn't work. I gotta fix this. Tell me how you can be yourself when you're in a sort of unnatural situation of being on a stage in front of people. How does that work for you?
Well, I do believe that sometimes when we're trying to be somebody else, or you see something, it doesn't come across as real. It's not comfortable. It's like you putting on some clothes and they don't exactly fit the right way. Um, but you've had a real good head start on simply being you. And either people are going to like it or they're not. But that's not really an indictment of who you are. They could be like, well, I really appreciate it when you said X, Y, and Z, or how you made me feel in that conversation, or I thought you were honest, or you were direct, whatever the case might be. But really just kind of say, gosh, I've had a good start at simply being me. I'm not trying to be somebody else. I am trying to accentuate better aspects of me, better versions of me. I'm certainly always trying to do that because you always want to grow and develop and learn. I mean, that's I think that's constant. But truly trying on something that just it ain't you, I think it comes across as just it doesn't work, it doesn't fit. And I think when I try to think about how I want the other person to feel in that conversation, often it's just like, well, I'm going to try and be me, and hopefully they'll like it. And if not, I'm not everyone's cup of tea.
Right, right.
I'd like to be, certainly. I want to, but I get it.
Yeah. So I think what I'm learning from your answer is that if you have a feeling that you're acting a part or putting on a costume that just it feels tight and isn't you, then it's a moment to just think, well, how might I be if I were just talking to a friend?
Yeah.
I'm going to be that me, which is sort of the best version of yourself, and just show up there and just see how it lands. I can't control everything. So, yeah.
I think so. And again, I just think that the most genuine, authentic, caring aspects of myself, I want to convey that to the other person. I want them to walk away with a feeling of, wow, I feel enriched by that conversation. And the only way I can really do that is to be myself. To be a little bit to be a little vulnerable, have some level of humility, and simply being kind to people. Think about the other person and how we both walk away from this conversation. One of my mentors always said to me, whether it's your colleagues or people with whom you first meet right away, we have a responsibility to uphold the other person and manage the other person's experience and reputation. And so when you do that, there's this natural ethic of care that you walk into in any kind of a situation, and to walk away with that, I think it's just really, really important.
Okay, so that's amazing. So imagine walking onto the stage. This is probably what you do, but I'm just thinking of all the people who might not do this. And you get on the stage and you would never probably even say this, but your goal is, hey, I'm here to take care of you. That, I think, would immediately change the presence that you bring to the stage. And also, your focus is now on that audience out there. How can I take care of you? You getting what you need, and just really focusing on them and not on your own potential self-consciousness.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Oh,
that's really great. I love that.
Well, a lot of people have poured into me over the course of my life. And so you begin to hear the ways in which people are taking care of me. And so it's like, I want to take care of people in that same way.
Yeah. That's so great. Well, I want to talk a little bit about communication styles, because after I met you, and, I felt, you probably have this with all the people you meet, but I felt like an instant rapport with you. And then I read that you're from New Jersey, and I thought, oh my God, that's why I had an instant rapport with him. Because I was born in New York and then grew up between New York and Boston. So I thought, he's from the East Coast. That's why we could, get right to it. So have you noticed, being, having come from the East Coast and now living on the West Coast, a difference in communication styles between those two places? And if so, what have you noticed?
I would say more so I've noticed, I've become more comfortable with my communication style, or kind of as I've gotten older. So that's one part. And from a professional standpoint, as I've kind of, I guess, gone up in levels of responsibility and authority, quote unquote, on campus. So I've gotten more comfortable with that. I think I run faster. I run with a higher level of energy than I think some people do with whom I work. So one day someone said to me, "Gosh, you're just going really fast," and I'm like, "This is kind of about what it is. this is this is no caffeine. This is
Right.
this is just kind of how it
This is New Jersey me.
and I've learned that over the years, people have perceived, I think sometimes, New Jersey and New York as brash, aggressive. I don't see it that way at all, but I do see it as there's things that we've agreed to do. Here's the list of when they have to get done. How do you moderate your time? And it's a checklist, and so you keep going, but you do it in a way that I think is caring and humane and generous and fun. You got to have fun with all of it.
Yeah, yeah. So one thing I've really noticed, and I've talked to other podcast guests about this, is the difference in the experience of both interrupting and being interrupted, East Coast, West Coast. So here I've learned that no matter what the situation, rude to interrupt. But on the East Coast, I find it's part of how we communicate. And we don't think of it as interrupting. We think of it as like adding on. You know what I mean? You're saying something, you're like, oh, yes, I know what you mean. And I got to tell you something else quick that relates just to that. So I'm just wondering, have you had issues with interrupting or needed to kind of like hold yourself back or be more sensitive to the fact that people don't like the interruption thing as much here?
Yeah, so I do think there's a issue around interrupting. Do people see it as adding on? Do people see it as this give and take of communication and that it's true dialogue? Because again, as I mentioned earlier, I view it as the give and take. Now we're getting depth. Now we're going somewhere now, as opposed to you say something, I wait. And I kind of wait for what the appropriate pause in conversation is, and then I say something, because often, and especially happen nowadays, I think we have to often correct the narrative sometimes. Or if someone's going down the wrong path or they have information, I'm like, let me stop you now, because I want to do you a service. I don't want to cause harm by you continuing down a path of incorrect or incomplete information. So I view it as, well, I'm helping, but I do think whether there's a politeness or whether there's a feeling of, oh, you just don't interrupt somebody. I'm like, you might need to. Actually, I'm doing you a favor by interrupting.
Right.
Yeah. So I do think that's an issue. I think it's I do think it's geographical. I do think sometimes it could be gendered. I do think there's cultural aspects around that. Some people are just like, you just keep it going. Other people are like, boop, boop, boop. So it kind of all depends on how you've grown up. And in my family, we're interrupters.
We are. No. Yeah. I've had to get used to it here as well. And there's some times when I'm going to say something where I might say, and this is the New Yorker in me coming out, I just need to get this out. Don't interrupt me. I'll tell people ahead of time, let me just get this out. So, that's so interesting. Well, I'm glad you're noticing that too, because I've definitely had to change there. So I want to talk a little bit about nerves because you seem very relaxed on stage. And I'm wondering what happens to you when it's like 5 minutes, 3 minutes to showtime. You're standing behind the curtain. They're just about to introduce you. It feels a little high stakes, that this matters. You care. First of all, do you feel nervous? And what do you do in those last couple of minutes before you walk on stage, so that you can actually do it and at least not look nervous?
Well, I do feel nervous sometimes, and I don't think stress is a bad thing. I think we need a little bit of stress in our life to keep us focused. I do listen to music, and so I keep my phone is often kind of right near me, where I might want to listen to a song. Or I go back to thinking about real happy or joyful times in my life. And I kind of center myself. I do the breathing and try to go, okay, let me just put myself in the moment. This too shall pass. No matter what's going on right now, no matter how nervous I might be feeling, it's going to be over fairly fast. And so I kind of like pause, might listen to music, might think about a friend. I'm a person that I believe the what we want said about us when we die, it's who your friends were, kind of what you did, those contributions you made, not so much the titles you held, to be honest with you. So I try to just center myself in that way, but breathing helps a lot for me to be able to do that. And then just kind of go, let's have at it. Let's do it. And occasionally I've kind of thought the post-mortem, you kind of think, oh, I can't believe I said that, or why'd I do that, or how was I you kind of think about those things, but it's just, this too shall pass, and it's an opportunity for you to now think about it the next time and do something different the next time. But breathing is a huge part of that, and just kind of taking my mind to a place that's a real joyful experience, like the day of my kid's birth, or how I felt after I got married, maybe not the moments before I got married, things like that, or holding my grandmother's hand. It's just things like that. You just kind of think about those moments of when you are truly calm.
Wow, that's such great advice. I absolutely love that. So you hinted at this a little bit, and I'm just wondering, have you ever had any big mistakes on stage, or big bombs, or where some really big mishap? And I'm just wondering how you handled that. And it could have been something completely out of your control. Do you have any memories of that?
Yeah. So actually, I make mistakes all the time, but one in particular, I was doing a presentation about why I thought something was going to be really, really helpful and beneficial for the people who were hearing it. And you make the point of focusing on the one person that you can there's always lights in your face and you can't all fully see, but often you can kind of see one or two people. And I focused on the one negative, the scowl. I mean, this guy, his arms were folded. He had a scowl on his face. He wasn't smiling. And I couldn't move away from that one face. So much about communication, it's two-way. Like, you need to be able to see someone's eyes. So what I began to realize is I need to just imagine what people's faces are like right now. I need to imagine how it might be landing on them to hear the words. But in any case, this one situation, I said some stuff, and I realized I was blind to some financial challenges that people might have heard as I was giving and I couldn't deviate. I was so I got to get through this talk. I know what my talking points are, and I didn't want to deviate from it. And so I don't think it went well. And the next time I gave that same presentation, I was able to, one, read the room, but also pivot, because you do so much thinking in milliseconds in your own mind about where things can go. I'm a person, I can talk on my feet. It might not always be well thought out. It might not always be concise or cogent or coherent, but I am able to kind of move and shake in that moment. And so I've learned that I often have to be able to do that if I'm not feeling that two-way communication of them picking up what I'm trying to say in a way that I think could be helpful and productive.
Yeah, that's great. Well, first of all, it's great to know that even somebody like you makes mistakes
all the time,
and can focus on the negative person as sort of a mistake in the moment. So, two things I just want to ask you about: how do you read the room?
I read the room by listening.
And what are you listening for?
You're listening for sometimes it's a laugh, sometimes it's a clap, sometimes it's snapping of fingers, sometimes it's a gasp, sometimes it's silence. If it's when I want to be poignant and I hear silence, that's good. Then I know we are communicating back and forth. But there's other times when I don't necessarily Um, no. I try to read myself. What is my own breathing like? Am I feeling nervous in the moment? Am I moving to a point of the speech where my breathing is going to change and therefore um, the words are going to come out a little bit different? Um, I think I'm looking. I'm looking to see is it energy really going back and forth, and so I try to read the room in that way. Again, sometimes you can clearly see the people in the audience, and that's always a helpful thing because you can read how people are perceiving. But sometimes you can't, and so it's listening for certain cues. And I think I try to do that.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, the big message I got from what you just said is I think sometimes people get so nervous they can't or they don't even think of paying attention to the audience. And you're paying attention. You know, when I was first I've done a lot of storytelling, and when I was first getting on a stage to tell stories, my director would say, "Now, if somebody laughs or makes a sound or whatever, you got to acknowledge them." And my attitude was acknowledge them. I'm like trying to get a story out here.
I got someplace to go.
I can't acknowledge that. But it was such a great direction for me to just be enough, you know, in the moment enough that he said, just look. You don't even have to laugh back or just, you know, acknowledge it because the audience wants to know you hear them.
Yeah, it's often like if you say something and then someone makes a comment, either in agreement or not in agreement, they're like, "Was that out loud?" No, no, that was out loud. I clearly heard you. But if you can at least acknowledge that, then it feels more comfortable to the people who are hearing it. They go, "Oh wow, Rob's in it right now. Gigi's in it right now."
Right. Yeah.
And it makes everyone kind of tune in
Yeah.
again. It jolts them into the moment. That I like it actually when politicians do that. Actually, you can hear they'll say something, someone will say something, and they're responding in the moment.
In the moment, yeah, and you need to just be relaxed enough that you can do that in the moment. So
even though there's an agenda, we got things we got to say, we got there's time frame. So you have to kind of read it. Can you do as much of that as you'd like to?
Right.
Because sometimes it's like, no, here you got 3 minutes to say something, and then we got to move to the next person.
Yeah,
so it depends on what it might be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, one of the tips I'll sometimes teach is, for example, if you ask the audience to answer a question like, "How many people here, do X, Y, and Z?" and you ask for a raise of hands, you need to actually notice, like, say, "Oh, looks like about half of you." Because if you ask us to raise our hands and then don't notice what we're doing, we're like, okay, that's it. We're not paying attention to you anymore because you're not paying attention to us,
Right.
So the other thing you mentioned that I wanted to ask you about was you're good at talking on your feet. And that is a huge challenge for many, many people. So how are you good at that? Is that just God's gift?
Yeah.
Or what do you do that makes you good at that? If somebody wants to be better at that, what would you advise?
Yeah. Part of it is I do try to read as much information as I can about a given topic so that it might be that I'm simply saying, wow, a perspective on this could be whatever it might be. I often try to find the truth in what I oppose and the error in what I believe. And if I can do that and play that off in my head, it helps me to think, at least be a little bit more nimble on my feet, especially during a Q&A period or a time when it's maybe like divergent perspectives on a panel. It helps me to be able to do that if I can listen and certainly have read up something about the topic. I don't go off on a limb sometimes if I know nothing about the topic. I mean, why would they have me on a panel if I know nothing about it? But I try to find the error in maybe what I believe, and I'm okay with the supposition. I'm okay with saying, "Hey, I wonder what about this," or to put a provocative question out for the group. I think that helps the level of discourse in the conversation.
So it sounds like you're not afraid to just say, ask a question or state a curiosity of yours in the moment. And you're not thinking, oh, I have to say the most perfect thing right now.
So I'm not thinking that I need to say the most perfect thing right now, but I am thinking about how the things I say might come back. Because
Mm,
everything is videotaped and everything
right,
is,
right.
so I do often think about how something can be perceived because I have different constituencies with whom I work, whether it's parents or faculty or staff members or students or whoever, prospective students, whoever it might be. So I do think about that. Um, but not so much that I think it causes me to, one, not be fully present or not engage in the conversation. Um, and I'm a believer that people change, people evolve. The way you feel one day might not necessarily be the way you feel another time. And often, I think in our world, we want to label someone as stagnant, and the way they feel one way might not ever change. Gosh, we all change, we all grow, we all evolve.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I want to ask you this again and see if I can get a straight answer.
Okay.
If somebody wants to be better at talking on their feet, and it sounds like that's even more challenging for you because you need to be careful about what you say.
Oh,
What do you do to be able to talk well on your feet, especially given that, you need to be careful about what you say because pretty much everything you say is recorded and can be played back to you.
yeah.
So
I think you smile. I I
that
think
helps.
I think you smile. I think you say maybe I haven't thought this all completely out. You lean into the vulnerability of being wrong, and then you say what you're going to say. Again, it's not a scarlet letter. Doesn't mean it's forever, but it certainly means you're engaged in it. And so I try to lead with um, familiarity with the person with whom I'm talking, and I think that helps to be able to be a little bit more nimble and more quick and talk on your feet.
So what I hear is that you stay relaxed and you acknowledge the person in front of you. You've also come in doing a lot of research, so you know things, and you're not hard on yourself in the moment.
Yeah, well, you certainly can't be hard on yourself in the moment.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
that's great.
we would never, you'd never give a speech. You'd never engage in public speaking and discourse if you were always just going to beat yourself up over it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely true. Well, it's time to wrap up. Are there any last little pieces of wisdom about public speaking that you want to give us before we say goodbye?
I would just say that, in general, in conversations, in discourse, in learning, it all occurs because you're learning something a little bit new. It might feel a little bit uncomfortable at times, but it doesn't mean it's bad. And often I think we try to remove ourselves from anything that's negative in a conversation or an interaction, but all growth occurs because you have some level of dissonance there. And it's about how we treat each other. So whether it's through education, whether it's through business, healthcare, whatever the case might be, walk into it with a level of care, humility, and certainly hope. Hope to bring to a world that needs it more now than ever.
What a gorgeous ending. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for talking to me. And thank you, everybody, for listening and watching Gigi Presents. This has been Gigi Rosenberg in conversation with Dr. Robert Kelly. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Goodbye. Thank you.